Hello, fellow UFO enthusiasts. I've been watching a thing called Stories Lost, or Lost Stories, and it's really good. It's not Australia. I know we're the Aussie X-Files, but I thought if you're interested in more people interacting with not just things up in the sky, but strange visitors, alien type visions, or creatures that people see, and there's a lot of stories about people that have been harmed by interaction with these UFO things, mainly up around Norway and Sweden. These people in these YouTube documentaries cover some amazing. It's all based on people's experience. There's not a lot of photos or video footage because these countries are pretty cold. It's not very good for. They go back a bit. They go back to the 1970s. But wow, it's just mind blowing. What you watch these and you think, hey, hang on, we are being visited by aliens. And they're not stupid. They just come and they do the little thing, the little dance, check us out, and then off they go. I mean, that's probably an extreme reasoning behind. Another way you could look at it is, well, these people, they're up in the snow and they're in these snowy, icy countries, and they're drinking a lot of moonshine and they're seeing things. But when you look at the accounts, some have got several people seeing the same thing. And it's just the weirdest things that and they're anecdotes from the UFO societies in Sweden and Norway and up around those countries. Pretty amazing. You've got to get into it. I'll just play a little bit of this one. Night at the factory, blackout breakdown. So here we go.
But then, strange malfunctions, a total blackout, and
yeah, this is in a factory. There was a blackout.
Finally an encounter other people would have a hard time swallowing. So much for clocking out on time.
So this is the introduction to the show. And then we'll go on here. Where are we?
I've worked with these boilers for 16 years and have never experienced anything like this, Lars emphasized. Both boilers and some fans had stopped before on rare occasions, but never all at once.
So these are just anecdotes of people that were doing things. They could have been driving, working in a factory, whatever, when these weird things make an appearance.
Nothing seemed to work. I was completely baffled. At that moment, the power went out. And the blackout didn't just affect the rubber factory, it plunged the entire town of Forshida into darkness. However, the outage was brief. When the power returned, the boilers and ventilation eventually restarted on their own, without any action from Lars, which is technically impossible. The time was approximately 6:15 p.m. Lars carefully checked that everything was functioning as it should, put on a jacket, and started walking down to the pump house, about 700 meters away, to start the cooling water pump for the factory's machinery system. When he was halfway there, he spotted a small, dark figure at a distance of 25 to 30 meters, which he first thought was a boy around 7 or 8 years old.
So a lot of these entities that people see in scenarios like this, these incidents, they're usually quite small creatures or people or whatever. Sometimes they look like an elf. Sometimes they look like a human being. Usually they're in some sort of a jumpsuit, like an all one-piece suit, with either a black box in front of them. Something would be glowing. Sometimes there's sparks around them, right? And it would be very bloody scary.
The figure was walking from the factory area and appeared to be heading toward the power station. How did you get in here? Was my first thought. The main gate and the gate to the pump house, located outside the main facility, were locked. Either he must have crawled under the fence surrounding the factory, or he was the son of one of the supervisors, I thought to myself. As Lars drew nearer, The figure stopped and raised its right hand, as if to greet him, making Erickson pause in his tracks.
Check it out. That's a description of what this thing looked like.
At first, I thought the boy was greeting me, and I believe I raised my hand in the same way to greet him back. But when I tried to move closer to him, I simply couldn't. It was as if something was stopping me.
And this is a common thing that you see in this series, is that when people try to approach, if shock hasn't stopped them themselves, they go to approach these things because they think, oh, maybe it's a child or a young person, but then there's a force, like a force field, and these creatures, I call them creatures, but these aliens, whatever you want to call them, or entities, stop you getting any closer, which is absolutely rare.
I couldn't move. Lars did not feel any discomfort or sense of threat from the figure. He finds it difficult to describe the inability to move, perhaps as a form of paralysis. When specifically asked about it, he says he isn't entirely sure whether it was that he didn't want to or simply couldn't move closer to the mysterious figure. It wasn't until the boy suddenly turned around that Lars realized he wasn't dealing with a human at all. All at once, it made the strangest kind of turn, he says. I've never seen anything like it. It was like a floating motion, with first one foot slightly above the ground.
That's the other thing. These things, they don't walk like we do. They seem to float or hover over the ground or move in a very unusual way.
And the other foot in the same way. During the turn, its hind feet slid, as if it had slipped on the snow. I didn't actually see that happen, but judging by the tracks I later examined at the exact spot where the turn occurred, it was clear that it had slipped.
So gravity must have been affecting it at some stage, because to slip you have to have weight of some sort. Anyway, I won't go into any more. If you enjoy UFOs and or UAPs as they call them now, and you love enjoy these stories, wow, these guys, they really put a lot of stuff together. As I say, they're experiences that people had and have reported to their authorities in Switzerland, Norway, up around the northern Europe. And wow, there's just so many of them. There's just heaps. And like I say, you could say, oh yeah, they're just drinking too much of their Norwegian hooch or something because it's cold. But no, there's more to it than that. Anyway, there we go. Check it out. I'll put a link in the comments section.